So yeah, it's feeling inspired by a map to do stuff, and some of the Polish maps are really, really nice. But I don't have the inspiration for them. I don't have the real world experience of being in Poland and seeing Polish farming going on, so it's sort of, I don't have that bond. And I do obviously with the UK, because I've ridden round areas that look like this. I've never been to Oakfield Farm or the area it's in, but actually I have. But yeah, that's by the by. Not every day of the week. I lived more east of London, and so YouTube-wise, Ollie's Farm, I've ridden round, and Pemberton, I think. I've ridden round areas like that, and I've seen the fields being worked and the cattle farms and everything else, and so it's something I have more, bond with, if you like. I've driven there. With America, it's I've lived in Michigan, where I've paid attention to the farming. I lived in Texas, but mostly big cities. The farmland that was around us was being turned into housing developments, so there wasn't as much farming going on down there. We lived in California, in Los Angeles, no farming there. I think the nearest we saw farming was fruit orchards and grapes, wine. But nothing, really farm sim arable style. And then my wife's family's from almost Amish country in Ohio, so we do go down there to visit the family, and again, lots of farming I've seen around there. So I think when it comes to American style farming, it's more farming around smaller towns and villages as opposed to farming the Great Plains, and I'm not really interested. There's some really nice maps, and some I've played. I think Arthur Chapman played one, and yes, they're very American, huge fields and stuff like that. But the problems with farms like that, for something like Farm Sim, and it's the sort of thing that I get bored with quickly. You start off with the farm, and okay, I've got it. If I'm not playing with seasons, there's crops in the ground, and so I've got myself 2 fields. One of them's ready to harvest. And it ended up taking me 10 hours of real time to harvest it, even with a huge harvester, because the field's so huge. And it's sort of, I kind of want to get the job done and move on to the next one, which is why, what was it? I did a playthrough on Ungertheim. 113 fields on maybe 150 fields on that map, so it's not exactly a small farm. Had a small village on it, which was nice. There was a lot of driving that you needed to do, but the individual fields were tiny, and you could take 90 horsepower tractor and plant a field in 20 minutes. It was that small. But you could afford a lot of fields, so I could plant 5-6 different fields, but I didn't feel I'm on the same field for the entire 2 hours stream doing one job. I'm doing one job because I'm playing with seasons, so every field needs to be cultivated, but we're moving around fields. And then when we don't have anything to do with 150 fields, there's an awful lot of opportunity for contracts. So European style's good for me. It's probably why I like things like the Old Stream Farm. Like I said, I can't explain why I like the Old Stream Farm, but I don't like the Valley the Old Farm. They're both by the same author. The Valley the Old Farm's a bigger map, but essentially same style. But I don't know. And Black Sheep was the one that did the South Mountain Creamery, and that was an awesome American map. So yeah, when it comes to favourite map, it's hard to say. You know, going back to the question, what's my favourite map? I don't really have a favourite map, but I need to be inspired by whatever map I'm playing, and if I can't find the inspiration to it, the playthrough's not going to last long. And I kind of want it to last long for a Saturday. If I go back to midweek streaming on FarmSim, then those playthroughs tend to be a little bit more... it's not a long-term thing. We're going to play 1 year, 2 years, see how we get on. But it's a finite length series. When we're done, when we've achieved our goal, or when we've reached the time limit we set ourselves, it's a done thing. So I kind of don't mind making a mistake. I picked the wrong map and now I'm going to have to live with it. It's sort of, I picked the wrong map, but yeah, we set out with a goal, and so as soon as the goal's complete, we can move on. It's not a big deal. And I usually had 2 or 3 different farms going at the same time, weekdays. I'm not sure that's the greatest plan. It's a lot easier to play a map just, I mean, obviously with the exception of Saturday, but if I started playing another map weekdays, it would be a map and I may play it 2, 3, 4 times a week. But yeah, we'll move it along really quick and just be done with it, rather than 1 episode a week equates to 1 day a week. So it's going to take, 12 weeks to play a year if you're playing 3-day seasons at 1 day a session. Whereas if you're playing 3 times a week, then that's potentially 4 weeks, 1 month, one real month, and you're at the end of the first year. Plus, there's always time where, I don't have anything to do, there's no contracts to do, so we can just skip through today and move on to the next day. Speaking of which, just noticed it's 3:42 today, so it's almost time for us to go do the silage cell. Now again, that's going to take a while. Actually, let me just stop us here. Let's go find the JCB. There it is. And that's grass silage. Let's check that one. Yeah. Well, in that case, jump out the cab, turn that on. I think what I can do, we can slow the time back down again now, and what I can do now is load up the bunker, or load up the digester, and as soon as that's full, we can go back to the ploughing and do that. This will take 4 fork loads to fill up the thing. Depends how fast I drive, of course. I'm trying to keep the spikes out. 16. Oh, that was interesting. Because if any of these haven't finished turning into silage, it's a good thing to know. I think basically, in general, it's looking like this is all silage, so we're all good here. But just in case there isn't one. Take 2 rows, so that's nice. Oh, big plough's finished, so that's good. Ooh. Tractor's having issues. Okay, that should be way more than the... oh, don't drop out the back. Well, that was bad. People, super strength, back. Jump out. Let's go fetch those bales from the disaster. Oh, I only dropped... only dropped 2 out the back, so not total disaster, just mostly. Alright, I'm stuck. Let's turn off super strength before I throw a tractor across the map. And this looks good. Okay. I think what I'll do is I'll take this over to the other end. We can set that off to finish the point where the case is at. Case is probably sat in the way, of course. And we'll take the case down to the south side of the field and just tidy all that up. Yeah, that's exactly in the way. It'll take a while for the digester to eat all those bales, plus we put 3 extras there. and off you go. Go. Do that thing. Oh, nice. Nitrogen, 100 kilos per hectare. Okay, so this is now reading nitrogen levels. We were having a problem the other day, or last week, in that the info panel wasn't telling me how much we were getting again. Will is back. Welcome. Manolia Luna, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Oops, you should not drop your plough when you're still in the middle of the farm track. That's a bad thing. And you should flip it as you go each direction. So you're always pushing the dirt in the same direction. Okay, so that's the next bit. Whoa. So yeah. As soon as this is all plowed, I'm not sure what I'm doing with this field next. I mean, one of the options I do have for this field is to actually put corn in it and do it as a maize harvest for next year, but corn isn't. I mean, corn you don't plant until the end of spring, so this field's going to be left fallow for quite a lot of time. So maybe we plant this with oilseed radish for the winter, just so we get a boost in nitrogen. Corn's a high demand for nitrogen, so it's going to need. This field's going to need a fair amount of work. But that said, I'm not sure it's actually that bad. What is it at? Nitrogen is 100 kilos per hectare. We need, I think, probably getting on for 200. So it's still going to need an awful lot, but oilseed radish will take care of some of that, and then we'll add probably some solid fertilizer when we plant the crop itself. And since corn is planted using a planter, I think our planter has a does apply fertilizer when it's sowing, so that'll be all done at the same time. Thing is, with things like what's the other crop we usually plant is sunflowers. We have a Helianthus header specific to sunflowers, so planting that is that uses a planter, but sunflowers do not need a lot of nitrogen, so we kind of, in that situation, I can put fertilizer into the planter, but it doesn't use any of it. So a little bit over here. And of course, because because I ploughed the field from about midway, we've pushed all of the dirt from this side of the field to the middle, and then all of the dirt from the other side of the field to the middle as well. Because you put, at least for a plough this size, you'd put your wheel in the rut of the previous row, and then plough out to the sort of the unploughed part of the field. So like I'm doing here. Doink. Okay, I think I'll do a quick run across the top. So obviously there was a little bit missed there. A little bit there. I think for the most part our worker hasn't had a problem with this field. I think we're down to where, yeah, we're down at the end. So yeah, typically you would plough in one direction. Either left to right or right to left, and then unless you're using a straight plough which has no turnover mechanism, you're putting your wheel in the rut, which now is to the right, and then your plough hangs out to the left, so we're pushing dirt towards the middle, the north side of the field, the right side. And then when we get to the other end, we'll flip the plough and we'll do exactly the same thing, and we're still pushing the dirt in the same direction. And then, as I understand it, successive years you would then plough from this side of the field, pushing dirt the other way. That's the wages done. It's 4 o'clock. Game time. Now with the big Lemkin plough, which the Challenger has on it, you don't put your tractor anywhere near the ruts, because the plough hangs over a little bit. If we're going this way, it hangs over a little bit on the left side and a lot on the right side as you're running this way up the field. As soon as we've done this bit, we'll run over to the other side, see how it did, and probably take all this kit back to the farm, because until the potatoes are harvested, there's no more ploughing to do again. On our oilseed fields, which last year was field 1 and 2, so the 2 we have the slurry tanker up now. Our planter is a direct drill, so I don't actually have to cultivate those fields. The only reason I do it is because sometimes it's easier to see the contrast when you're putting slurry out on the field. We'll see about that shortly. There's that field to my right I now want to check. We'll jump out as soon as we've completed these rows and go and check on that. Actually, I might do it before then, but I'll finish this row. I did notice that on that field to our right there's a fair amount of area where the seeder didn't go on some of the corners. And yeah, so there is opportunity to add clover into that field. Sometimes I'm wondering whether it's worthwhile actually ploughing that field all the way up to the hedges and plant right up to the hedges so there is no grass that gets in the way when we're harvesting. But I don't know. Drag that plough through the dirt. Whoops. Farm sim a little bit more realistic, I would have a ton of repairs to do to this plough. Okay, so this is the last bit of this field, well, that I know of. There may be some more on the other side, but for right now, that side's done. Jump out. I'll check the nitrogen content here. So nitrogen is 100 over 60. Seriously? pH is down 0.5, which is to be. So we've had 2 cuts from here since it was last limed. So that's down. The problem I have is reducing the nitrogen on this field is really difficult. The problem, oh, there we go. Nitrogen is perfect there. I don't know what that 200 was, but the problem was that was originally a grass field, and I ploughed it up, which means that nitrogen was added to the field. And then I put manure down on the field, so more nitrogen on the field, and then I planted it. And clover does not need a lot of nitrogen content, so I think, and I can't say for certain, but I think we've suffered in our clover yield because the fields were too heavily nitrogenated. And of course, I think with the clover planter I had to I don't know. Well, maybe not. I can't remember whether the clover plant, the planter I use for planting clover, actually has a lays out fertilizer as well. But I think it does, and I loaded up the planter with fertilizer, and was rather surprised I didn't use any until I compared with the field that said, oh, you have way too much nitrogen in your field. So, oh, whoops. So yeah, here, because I'm again doing the same thing, but we are now pushing the soil towards the middle of the opposite direction than we were last on the other edge. That's generally considered a bad thing, I believe. And so when you do plough a field, you would plough it from this side this year, and then plough it from the other side the next time you plough it. So you're keeping the soil evened out. You don't end up with a huge mound on one edge of the field because you've been pushing the soil progressively over the field. Anyway, don't do that, do that. We are almost done here. So